Does your air conditioning sound like this? Yeah, that means you probably got something wrong with your blower. And the reason we know it's the blower, the heater blower, by the way, it's because if we press this button right here, this activates the second blower, the cool air blower. And if you turn it on, no noise. So we know that the heater blower is the issue. We're gonna go into the engine bay, take off the firewall cover, and see if we can fix this thing up. So we have 6 bolts on the firewall cover. We got 1, 2, 3 on the other side and 3 more on the bottom. After we pull those 6 out, we should have access to the heater blower. So let's get that done. So here's a closer look inside. We have 2 black trim pieces on the actual cages we need to remove, and hopefully that's where the issue lies. Maybe the trim pieces are rubbing against the cages, but if not, we'll dig a little deeper. So let's see what we can do. So here's the motor, and if we spin it, we can still hear that same type of noise that we heard in the cabin. It's very faint, but you can still hear it, and it sounds like it's coming from the right side. So I think what we're gonna do next is just pull out the motor and lube it all up, clean it up before we start buying replacement parts, and then throw it in. Just gotta flick that one little latch right here, mess around with it, and pull it out. So I was right about what I said before. I see a solid amount of rust mostly on the right side, and it is squealing. So what I'm going to do first is clean it up with some ISO, maybe some degreaser, and see if we can make it that easy. So here's our motor blower. This is a Bosch model. I cleaned up a lot of rust that was just all over on the shafts. I used my Dremel with some sandpaper. I threw some white lithium grease on the connections, and it spins a lot better, but I do still feel a little bit of resistance. So we're gonna throw it in the car and see how it performs. If it still makes the same noise, we're probably gonna need a new blower, because it seems like the bearings are a little worn down, causing it to wobble a little bit, but let's see. All right, so we got the blower motor back in the car. I even stripped off all the old foam that was sitting underneath. So let's turn this thing on and see if a cleaning will do. The sound's not as bad, but we can still hear it. So I was able to talk to a couple other E28 owners, and they both said the same thing, that the bearings on the motor went bad. Right where the white lithium grease is on both sides, there's bearings there. And over time, they just got worn down too much, allowing the middle shaft to wobble. And that wobble is causing the noise. So we're gonna have to source another blower, and I'll pick it up from there. You know what? Instead of waiting weeks for this thing to come in, I'm gonna go down to my local vintage BMW shop and see if the guy has an extra blower for me. Let's go.
A few moments later.
He didn't have it.
3 days later.
Shout out to FCP Euro for getting these parts to me so quickly. And here's our new motor blower. Just take a second to make sure it aligns with the old one and everything looks exactly the same. Part was really inexpensive too. I'll leave the description, the parts number in the description. Stick around, because I'm going to show you how to take off the fan blades and transfer it over to the new motor, because it is pretty difficult, but I do know a couple tricks to make this thing a lot easier. Okay, so the first cage is fairly easy. We're going to start with some WD-40 and just spray it onto the top to help loosen things up. And all we're going to do after that is hold the bottom cage and spin the top one, applying a little pressure and pulling it up. Now for the second cage, we're gonna take a drill bit, a drill, whatever you want to call it, and stick the fan inside. Slowly give it a little speed while holding on to the second cage. Now that we have the cages off and cleaned up, here's a closer look at the two bearings. You can tell that the old one is just loose. It's got too much wiggle room right there, while the new one, nice and tight. And here's our completed motor blower. And it's looking pretty darn nice. So now we're gonna throw this thing into the car. If it doesn't fit within the mount, just take out your rubber mallet again and give it a couple taps. So we're gonna throw this thing in and see what happens. look at that. No more noise. Looking good. Wow. And that's how you do it, guys. Alright, decided to take the car out for a short drive just to make sure everything's working right while we're cruising, and just as I expected it, everything's working just great, man. There we go, even the manual. But I hope this video gave you a little bit of insight of what you need to get done, and I hope this helped you out a little bit. Thanks for watching.